The story to follow is a narrative reconstruction created exclusively for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real facts, people, or situations is mere coincidence. The casino protector Marcus Valentino was in his office when he heard the screams. He ran downstairs, burst into the private room, and found Richard Ashford on top of Olivia Chen, a 22-year-old waitress, trying to rape the young woman. Marcus ripped him off her and beat him to death with his own hands. When the police arrived, Richard was dead on the floor, and Marcus was arrested. But 3 years later, when Marcus got out of prison, he discovered something that froze him. Richard was alive, very much alive. And now he was coming for revenge. Hi, I'm Rose Cameron. If you love stories of redemption, intense drama, and true love, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this video with your friends. Marcus Valentino was not an ordinary man. At 36 years old, he had built an empire that extended far beyond the walls of the Venetian resort in Atlantic City. To the outside world, he was simply a successful businessman who had invested in real estate and first-class luxury establishments. Nobody needed to know the truth about who he really was. Nobody needed to know that he controlled much of the city's illicit business, that he had men willing to do anything for him, that his word was law on the streets of Atlantic City. Marcus had learned early in life that the world was a dangerous place, and that you had to be even more dangerous to survive in it. He had started as a street kid, with nothing, with nobody. His parents had died when he was only 8 years old, leaving him alone in a world that had no compassion for orphaned children. He slept on the streets, ate whatever he could find, and quickly learned that kindness was a weakness you couldn't afford to have. By 15, he had gotten involved with the local mob, starting as a simple messenger, delivering packages for men who didn't ask questions. By 20, he had climbed the hierarchy through intelligence, courage, and a willingness to do what was necessary. By 30, he had become one of the most powerful men in Atlantic City. The casino was his crown jewel, the symbol of everything he had achieved. It was a place where rich men came to lose money they didn't have, where beautiful women served expensive drinks on silver trays, where the illusion of wealth and power was sold every night. Marcus had decorated every detail of the place with obsessive precision. The golden lights that flickered on the slot machines in hypnotic patterns, the sound of poker chips being placed on tables in a constant rhythm, the aroma of expensive cigars and French perfume that hung in the air like a cloud of luxury. Everything was perfect. Everything was controlled. Everything was exactly as Marcus wanted it to be. The casino had 3 floors. The first floor was open to the public, with slot machines, poker tables, roulettes, and a bar that served the most expensive drinks in the city. The second floor had private gaming rooms for VIP clients, where businessmen and politicians came to gamble in privacy. The third floor was where Marcus had his office, his private residences, and the rooms where the most important clients were taken for activities that shouldn't be mentioned in public. It was a world within a world, a place where normal rules didn't apply. On that Friday night, Marcus was in his private office on the 3rd floor of the casino, reviewing financial reports and planning his next expansion. He had been considering opening a second casino in Las Vegas, expanding his empire even further. The numbers were good, very good. The Atlantic City Casino was generating millions of dollars a month, and most of that money was cleaned through legitimate businesses. Marcus had learned that the best way to stay safe was to make it look like you were a legitimate businessman. He paid his taxes, donated to charities, and had friends in positions of power. Marcus was so focused on his numbers that he almost didn't hear it. But when he did, his entire body froze. Screams. Screams of a woman in real danger, not the kind of scream of fun you hear in a casino. Marcus knew the difference. He had heard many screams in his life, and he knew exactly when someone was in genuine danger. He had heard screams of men who were about to die. He had heard screams of women who were being raped. He had heard screams of children who were being abused, and he knew this was one of those screams. Marcus got up from his Italian leather chair, leaving the papers scattered on the mahogany desk, and walked quickly to the door. His men were outside, as always, ready for anything. There were two of them, both large, both dangerous, both loyal to Marcus with their lives. He raised his hand, signaling that he would go alone. They hesitated, but obeyed. Marcus walked down the third-floor corridor, following the sound of the screams, his heart racing, his mind already calculating what could be happening. He knew every room on this floor, knew who was in each one, knew exactly what was happening in each one, and he knew that that specific room, the room at the end of the corridor, was where Richard Ashford had asked to be taken, and what he found would change everything forever. When he reached the private room, Marcus didn't knock on the door. He simply opened it, and what he saw inside made something change inside him in a way it had never changed before. Richard Ashford, an influential businessman who frequented the casino regularly, was on top of Olivia Chen, a 22-year-old waitress. His hands were in places they shouldn't be. His body was suffocating her against the bed. Olivia was struggling desperately, her eyes full of tears and absolute terror, her screams muffled by Richard's hand over her mouth. She was trying to push him, trying to break free, but Richard was much stronger, much heavier, and he had the element of surprise. At that moment, Marcus Valentino stopped being a businessman. He became something much more dangerous. He became a protector. He became an angel of vengeance. Marcus pulled Richard away from Olivia with a force that seemed superhuman. The businessman fell to the floor, confused and scared, not understanding what had happened. He had been so focused on Olivia that he hadn't heard the door open. Marcus lifted him by the collar of his expensive shirt, his eyes burning with a rage that few men ever experience. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His fist spoke for him. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound of impact echoed through the room, a sound Olivia would never forget. Richard fell to the floor, unconscious, his face unrecognizable, blood pouring from his nose and mouth, his broken teeth scattered across the floor. Marcus breathed heavily, his chest rising and falling, while Olivia huddled on the bed, trembling uncontrollably, her eyes fixed on Marcus with a mixture of fear and relief. She was naked, her clothes torn and scattered across the floor. She was hurt, with bruises beginning to appear on her arms and neck. She was traumatized, her body still in shock from what had almost happened. He turned to her, and his expression changed completely. The rage disappeared, replaced by genuine concern. Marcus removed his Italian silk jacket and placed it over Olivia's shoulders, covering her. He extended his hand to help her up, and when she took it, he pulled her into a protective embrace. At that moment, Olivia felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Absolute safety. She buried her face in Marcus's chest, her shoulders trembling as she cried, releasing all the tension, all the fear, all the pain she had accumulated. "You're safe now," Marcus whispered in her ear, his voice soft but firm. "No one is going to hurt you while I'm here. No one. I promise." Olivia Chen had started working at the casino just 3 months ago. She was a waitress, one of many beautiful women who worked there, serving drinks and smiling at rich clients. She had come from a small town in the interior of Connecticut, dreaming of a better life in Atlantic City. Her parents were poor, her brothers even poorer, and she had seen the casino as an opportunity to escape poverty. The job paid well, and the tips were generous. She had saved almost $5,000 in just 3 months, but Richard Ashford had started harassing her from day one. He was an influential businessman, owner of several technology companies on the East Coast, and frequented the casino regularly. He was handsome, in an arrogant way, with dark hair and blue eyes that seemed to always be calculating something. He had started by offering money, offering expensive gifts, offering a life of luxury if she would just agree to spend one night with him. When Olivia politely refused, he changed tactics. He started threatening, whispering that he could ruin her career, that no one would hire her again, that she would be marked as a problem girl throughout the hospitality industry. Olivia had tried to tell her supervisors, but they just smiled and said Richard was an important customer, that she should learn to deal with it, that it was part of the job. She had tried to avoid him, but he always found a way to find her. He waited for her outside the casino, followed her home, called her in the middle of the night. She was beginning to feel like prey, and Richard was the predator hunting her. That night, when Richard called her to a private room, Olivia knew something bad was about to happen, but she also knew that if she refused, he would threaten her again, that he would make good on his threats to ruin her career. So she went, and she almost paid with her life. But what nobody knew was that Richard Ashford wasn't really dead. He was just unconscious. And when he woke up in the hospital, surrounded by police and with several broken bones, he swore revenge. Richard had powerful connections, enough money to buy anything, and a determination that consumed him. He would not rest until Marcus Valentino paid for what he had done. The police arrived at the casino half an hour later. They found Richard being taken to an ambulance, his injuries serious but not fatal. They found Marcus in his office, calm and composed, as if nothing had happened. They found Olivia in a safe room, being cared for by a nurse Marcus had called. And when they started asking questions, Marcus answered with the calm of a man who knew exactly what to say. "He tried to rape one of my employees," Marcus said, his voice firm and clear. "I stopped him. That's all you need to know." But it wasn't that simple. Richard had expensive lawyers. Richard had influence. Richard had a different story to tell. He said Marcus had attacked him without reason, that it had been an attempted robbery that had gone wrong, that he was the victim in this situation. His injuries were serious, and he was willing to sue Marcus for aggravated assault. He was willing to go to the police and tell his version of events. Marcus knew he was in trouble. He had a criminal record, although it was old and had been erased from his official records. He had connections to the mob, although no one could prove it. He had a reputation for being a dangerous man, although he had worked hard to build a facade of respectability. And now, a rich and influential man was accusing him of aggravated assault. But what happened next was even more shocking. The trial was quick and brutal. Richard had lawyers who cost more than most people made in a year. He had false witnesses who swore Marcus had started the assault without reason. He had influence that money could buy. Olivia testified against him, telling exactly what had happened in that room. But her word wasn't enough. Richard had a lawyer who questioned her so hard that she began to doubt herself. He suggested that she had consented, that she had changed her mind afterward, that she was just trying to get revenge on a man who had rejected her advances. He questioned her credibility, her intelligence, her morality. He made her look like a liar. Marcus watched it all from the defendant's bench, his face impassive, but his heart burning with rage. He knew how the system worked. He knew that money could buy justice, and in this case, Richard had a lot of money. In the end, Marcus was convicted of aggravated assault. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Richard left the courthouse as a free man, his arrogant smile telling you everything you needed to know about how he felt about the outcome. When Marcus was taken to prison, Olivia was waiting for him outside the courthouse. She ran to him, trying to hug him, but the guards pushed her away. Marcus looked into her eyes and whispered something she would never forget. "Wait for me. No matter how long it takes, wait for me. I will come back. And when I do, I will take care of you." The 3 years that followed were the longest of Olivia's life. She visited Marcus every week, sitting on the other side of the protective glass, her fingers touching the glass while Marcus did the same on the other side. They couldn't touch, but they could see each other. They could hear each other. And that was enough. They talked about everything, about their dreams, about their fears, about the future they hoped to have together. Marcus told her stories about his childhood, about how he had survived on the streets, about how he had built his empire. Olivia told him about her family, about her dreams of having a normal life, about how much she loved him. Olivia worked hard during those years. She saved money, studied, and became manager of the casino. She built a life, but a life that always left room for Marcus. She knew he would come back, and when he did, she would be waiting. She had promised, and she kept her promises. Marcus, in turn, used his time in prison to prepare. He studied, planned, and kept his connections alive. He knew that when he got out, he would have work to do. He knew that Richard Ashford was still out there, still a threat, still a man who needed to be dealt with, and Marcus was willing to wait as long as it took to do it. He had made a promise to Olivia, and he kept his promises. But when Marcus finally got out of prison, something unexpected was waiting for him. When the day finally came that Marcus got out of prison, Olivia was waiting for him at the door. She was wearing a blue dress that Marcus had bought for her years ago, before everything happened. She was wearing makeup, and her hair was combed perfectly. She was beautiful, but what really mattered was the smile on her face. A smile that said she had waited, that she had believed, that she still loved him. Marcus hugged her, and for the first time in 3 years, he could really feel her. There was no glass between them. There were no guards watching. There was just Marcus and Olivia, and the love that had grown between them despite everything. They stood there, hugging for a long time, without saying anything. There was no need for words. Everything that needed to be said was being communicated through the embrace. They went to Olivia's apartment, a small but cozy place she had rented with the money she had saved. She had decorated it carefully, with fresh flowers on the coffee table, with scented candles, with soft music playing in the background. She had prepared a meal, his favorite dish, and they ate together, talking about everything that had happened over the past 3 years. Marcus told Olivia about prison, about how he had kept his sanity by thinking of her, about how he had planned their future together. Olivia told Marcus about her work, about how she had become manager, about how she had saved money so they could have a better future together. They talked about marriage, about children, about a normal life away from everything that had happened. But when Marcus arrived at his apartment that night, an apartment he had kept during all these years, he found a letter waiting for him. His heart sank when he saw the sender. It was from Richard Ashford. The letter was simple, but its words were like poison. "Welcome back, Marcus. Now it's my turn to play. And this time, I'm going to take everything from you, starting with the girl." Marcus felt panic take over him. He immediately called Olivia, but she didn't answer. He called again. And again. Nothing. His heart raced. He knew exactly what Richard was doing. He was taking her. And Marcus had to find her before it was too late. Marcus ran out of his apartment, his men already waiting on the street. He had kept his connections even in prison, and now they would be useful. He began tracking Olivia through her phone, through security cameras, through every resource he had available. She had been taken to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Atlantic City, the same kind of place where men like Richard took their victims to do things no one should do. When Marcus arrived at the warehouse, he didn't bring the police. He brought his men. He brought rage. He brought the determination of a man who had lost 3 years of his life and wasn't willing to lose anything else. He entered the warehouse like a hurricane, his men behind him, ready for anything. Richard was there, with Olivia tied to a chair, a knife in his hand. When he saw Marcus, he smiled, a cruel smile full of satisfaction. "Welcome," said Richard, placing the knife against Olivia's neck. "Now let's see how much you really love her." Marcus stopped. His men stopped. The silence in the warehouse was deafening. Richard had the knife against Olivia's neck, and she was trembling, her eyes pleading with Marcus to do something, anything. Marcus slowly raised his hands, showing he was unarmed. "Let her go," he said, his voice calm, but charged with threat. Your problem is with me, not with her." Richard laughed, a laugh that echoed off the concrete walls of the warehouse. "My problem is exactly with her," he said. "She destroyed my life. She testified against me. And now I'm going to destroy hers. And I'm going to make you watch. And here's the moment that will define everything." At that moment, Marcus did something no one expected. He didn't attack. He didn't shout. He simply began walking toward Richard, slowly, deliberately, his eyes fixed on the man. Richard became nervous. He pressed the knife harder against Olivia's neck, and a drop of blood ran down her skin. "Stop!" shouted Richard, "or I'll kill her!" But Marcus didn't stop. He kept walking, and when he was just a few steps away, Richard did what Marcus knew he would do. He moved to stab Olivia. But Marcus was faster. He moved like a ghost, his hand grabbing Richard's wrist, twisting it with enough force to break the bone. The knife fell to the floor. Olivia was freed from the chair. And then Marcus did something that would define him forever. He didn't kill Richard. He left him alive, but destroyed, broken, unable to ever hurt anyone again. When the police arrived, called by one of Marcus's men, they found Richard on the floor, unconscious, his bones broken in several places. They found Olivia in Marcus's arms, safe and protected. And this time, when the trial happened, the truth came out. Richard was convicted of kidnapping, attempted murder, and a series of other crimes. He went to prison for a long time. Marcus was not arrested. He had acted in self-defense, protecting a woman who was being threatened. The law was on his side this time. 6 months later, Marcus was in an exclusive Italian restaurant in Atlantic City. The place was empty, except for the two of them. Candles flickered on the tables and soft music played in the background. Olivia knew something special was happening. Marcus looked into her eyes, and for the first time since they had known each other, he seemed nervous. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it, revealing a diamond ring that sparkled in the candlelight. "Olivia," Marcus said, his voice trembling slightly, "you gave me a reason to live when I was in prison. You gave me hope when everything seemed lost. You showed me that even in a dark world, light still exists. You are my light. You are my everything. Will you marry me?" Olivia said yes through tears of happiness. She put the ring on her finger, and when Marcus kissed her, it was as if all the suffering, all the pain, all the darkness they had been through finally had a purpose. They had found each other at the worst moment of their lives, and now they had a future together. I'm Rose Cameron, and that was the story of Marcus and Olivia. If you loved this story as much as I did, subscribe to the channel, leave your like and share with your friends. Thank you for watching.